Okay, Justin, last time we chatted, you told me about all the fun road trips and driving you've been doing in your Hyundai Ioniq 5. I'm super excited for you and your family. I know you're having a good time. Now, that being said, while you've been out on the road, you've obviously had to go charge your Ioniq 5. Something tells me you've seen some pretty interesting things. I know we've talked about a few of them on some of the plugged-in shows we do. How about we run through it? What are the 5 craziest things you've seen so far as an EV owner at charging stations?
Yeah, I don't know if you're ready for this, Zach. America is not ready for mass electrification. I hope it happens soon. I love driving electric, and I think you will too.
Yeah.
But we're not ready now. Number one, on my way to the
Wait.
beach.
Number five, man. You got to build the suspense.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that. That makes sense. You clicked on the video, so probably makes sense, right? Let's start with number 5. 68 cents per kilowatt hour. That is the most expensive charging I have ever seen anywhere, and I asked our partner Justice, one of our YAA auto experts, about this, and he was like, yeah, that's the most ridiculous EV charging pricing he'd ever heard of either. 68 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, if you don't drive electric, you may be thinking, what does that mean? Why does that matter to me? Well, how much does it cost to fill up a tank of gas if you have, let's say, a Toyota RAV4? Zach, I don't know, like 60 bucks?
Sure, it's probably
Something
somewhere
like that.
around there right now.
At 68 cents per kilowatt hour, that's a $50 fill up for my Ioniq 5. 50. That kind of takes away the benefit of going electric, doesn't it?
Just a little bit, yeah, I'd say so, especially when, I don't know, how much does electricity cost at home?
Yeah, at home, filling up, I've done the math, it costs me about $14 to fill up at home, and that's from empty. Which in reality, no, I'm never doing that. I'm usually going from like 10% to 80%, 10% to 90%, and that's going to be more like, I don't know, $8 or $9.
So there you go. So craziest thing you've seen so far are ridiculously marked up prices, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, but number 4 gets a little weird. I luckily had quite a bit of buffer, quite a bit of charge left on my EV when I pulled into a charger in Western Virginia, not West Virginia. Western Virginia. Electrify America, the network that I have 2 years of free charging at, but not a single charger was working.
Wow. Not a single one?
No. To give them like 1 ounce of credit, or a little bit of mercy, it was a very small station with just 4 connectors. It was the smallest Electrify America station I've ever seen. It must have been a first generation install because it looked old already somehow. But not a single one was working. I tried them all. Luckily, I was able to make it 45 miles down the road to the next charging station. That one worked fine, but that was a pain in the butt. I thought, at least one of them would work.
Yeah,
Right?
I think what makes that kind of crazy is the fact that all of them, legitimately all of them didn't work. That is not a good look. That's scary, to be honest.
It's scary. Now, fortunately, that's not generally the experiences I've had. Usually, I would say, overall, 1 out of 5 chargers that I plug into has issues. That's still really bad because gas stations don't do that. But yeah, whenever you go to a station and none of them are working, you better hope that you've got enough electricity in your battery pack to get to the next charger.
Want to know who the good dealer is in your neighborhood? Go to joinyaa.com and check out our crowdsourced dealer reviews. All of our community members coming together to help one another.
What's number 3?
Number 3. Well, sad story. This was actually the day that I had just purchased my Ioniq 5. It was a huge tropical-like storm in Delaware. My first time pulling into Electrify America. It's time to charge. It's a beautiful station. All the chargers seemed to be working, but it was pouring rain. I ran out of the car, and I'm an EV nerd, so I knew how to do this. I opened up my app in my car, got it ready, ran out, plugged in the car, ran back into my car, activated the charging. It was not a huge deal for me, but the people next to me, I feel so sorry for them. And their ID4, there were 4 family members. I'm assuming they were family members, and they were all soaked because there are no coverings over EV charging stations, at least outside of California. You got some in California, but there's nothing above you. So if it's pouring rain and you can't figure out how to plug in your ID4, you can't figure it out. They were trying so hard. They were soaked, and that is not something that most people filling up a gas tank have to deal with. Maybe this is why we need GM's new partnership with Pilot and EVgo to bring EV chargers to truck stops, because I'm assuming they'd build a canopy over them.
Fingers crossed. Okay, so charging in the rain, not because your fear of getting electrocuted, because your fear of being confused about how to charge and getting a monsoon dumped on top of you. Yeah, I'd say
Yes.
that's one of the craziest things that you're probably going to see when you go out and charge a vehicle. What about number 2?
Yeah, number 2, driving into a charging station in your brand new Kia EV6. You know, this was the top trim, maybe $62,000. Maybe it had all the bells and whistles, with no air conditioning. I mean, would anybody in a Mercedes or BMW or let's say a Genesis, would they ever pull into a gas station with no AC on a day when it's 93 degrees Fahrenheit?
Exactly.
not.
Yeah, you shared this story with me in advance. An elderly mom and a daughter bought a new EV6, went on their first road trip. It's the middle of the summer in North Carolina, and they pull into an EV charging station with 0% battery left and no air conditioning because they had run the thing into the ground. That is
Yep.
crazy, but also scary because that's like bad for the car and definitely bad for my anxiety, and I wasn't even there.
Yeah, bad for the battery's life to run it down to 0, but we got to be fair and say that all EVs, they do have quite a significant buffer, so that means when it hits 0%, it's not actually 0%. But that's still not a situation anyone wants to be in. And it's not like the car turned off air conditioning, because the automakers could get sued for that, right? The air conditioning would only turn off if the car was actually 100% dead. What instead happens is that the car recommends you turn off the air conditioning so you can make it to your charging destination. That's what the EV6 did for this poor family, and they pulled in sweating, and I was right there, and I introduced myself and was like, is everything all right? And they were pretty distressed, and they said they were thinking about selling the car. Good news was, if they did, I'm sure they'd turn a pretty profit in today's market.
All right, number 1, what is the craziest thing you've seen while at a charging station?
I figured we'd end on somewhat of a positive note. I was charging at Electrify America, as I typically do on road trips, and it took me about 25 minutes to go from 10% to 90% state of charge. The Ioniq 5 and the EV6 have 800-volt architecture, so our cars charge fast. During that 20 minutes that I charged, an older Hyundai Kona pulled up was plugged in next to me, and I paid attention. I was like, I wonder how quickly this Hyundai Kona EV can charge. In the same amount of time that my car gained 80% state of charge and I was ready to go, the Kona gained 25% state of charge.
Wow.
On top of that, it has slightly less range than my car, about 20 miles less range. So it was not charging fast at all. But where's the positivity here? Innovation. Innovation is what's going to make all of these problems hopefully go away, right? We don't know if it'll be next year or 10 years from now. But innovation is really key to the success of EVs, and we can't forget that. It's not like the internal combustion engine stayed the same for 100 years. We've got solid-state batteries on the way, faster charging on the way, new battery chemistries coming to take care of many of the problems I've complained about today, especially charging infrastructure. We need that. So innovation, that's the light at the end of the tunnel.
It will be really cool a couple of years from now to pull up to a charging station and just see the discrepancy in, like, I don't know, a 2017 EV or a 2018 EV versus, I don't know, a 2030 EV, how they charge differently, the speed, etc. That'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I've had a lot of our YAA community members ask me, is charging an EV ever going to be as quick as filling up a gas tank? And because of physics, it may never be 5 minutes. But I believe, and I'm quite confident in this based on the research I've seen and the products coming to market, 15 to 20 minutes will be the norm just 3 or 4 years from now. And with what my family has experienced, that's quick enough. That's enough time to run into the restroom, grab a snack, and come back out.
I love it, Justin. Well, thanks for sharing those experiences with us.
Thanks, Zach.